Hey there, it's Monday, April 24th, and we're back for another installment of Tech Talk. Today, we're going to get into some mail merge stuff. We're going to take a quick look at how you can take data that you have in a spreadsheet, in this case Excel, and merge that with Word documents so that you can create many different versions of a document, and each of those versions are going to include very unique and specific data that you've got in your spreadsheet. So you're able to create what are copies, but they're unique copies, individualized to the person that you presumably want to send this to, if it's a letter or something. So that's one of the examples, and we'll take a look at that right here. So for starters, looks like I was messing around. I created a folder. There we go. So I've got a few different files here, and I'll just go big for a second so you can see. I've got some demographics here that we're going to work with. And then I've got a fake little party invitation, a thank you letter, and a volunteer form. So we'll see what we want to work through there as we mess around with it. But first, we should look at the data and just take a peek at what's actually in there. So for my Excel file here, I've got a bunch of fake data. And at the moment, it's got, if I zoom up, there we go. Let's see, fake student numbers, names, emails, birthdays, address, an award that they're going to win, the date of their graduation, although we may not use that date for grad, we'll use it for some other stuff, and contribution, which is part of that party invite thing that you saw a moment ago. So maybe we'll even just start right there. Let me close this. Don't save. I didn't change anything. We'll start with party invitation. So when I open this guy, no, not that. That's some ancient mail merge stuff. We'll give it a moment here to pop up. And here we've got a sort of pretty looking little party invitation. This came right out of the actual template stuff that's available in Word. So if you're ever in Word and you're creating some of the stuff, you can always say new and come to these templates. And I think I just typed invitation when I found this initially. Yep, there it is, first one, party invitation. So I grabbed that and I swapped in a few spots here so that we could see where we're going to put someone's name, what this party is, like a sports party for the club or the group that they were a member of. There's going to be a date, an address, and what are you going to bring to the party here is the idea. So how do we make this work? What we're going to do is first come up to the top and find the mailings tab, because the mailings tab is where all this stuff lives. And right now you can see a lot of these buttons are all grayed out. Now, frequently what people will do is come to Start Mail Merge, and before all these buttons were available in like previous versions of Word, there was just a wizard that you would go through. And so a lot of people will come down and hit this step-by-step mail merge wizard, which I'll do right now. It opens up some stuff along the side here. And that sidebar begins with select what type of document you want. And you can see at the bottom, the next step is starting the document, meaning like writing content that's on the document. Well, we're going to skip all that for a couple of reasons. I want you to see what these buttons do at the top. And really, all this wizard is doing is just walking me from left to right across the toolbar. So that's what I'm going to do for you today. I'll be your wizard. Um, the very first thing, select your document type. Well, that's exactly what this button is. The very first button that we just clicked a second ago is asking what kind of document are we going to create here. And if I was starting from scratch, I might hit letters. And then I'd go next, and we'd have to begin, basically. I'm going to close the wizard right now, get rid of him, because the next part about writing the letter is adding content to it. So I've started with a template. I've already got my content. No big deal. So I can skip right past this first button. And the next button would be step 3 in the wizard, select your recipients. So I could start by creating a brand new list if I wanted to, but of course that would defeat the purpose of gathering data in other ways. We may have gathered this through a survey or a Google form, or typed it out or exported from PowerSchool. There's a bunch of different ways you might find your data. But what I'm going to do here is add from an existing list, and I'm going to go find that folder that I was messing with. Here we go, fake demographics, and open. Now right away, it's got the name of the tab at the bottom. So sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, that kind of thing would be at the bottom. And I was messing around with this earlier. So it's got a name. The first row of data contains headers. And it does, in my case. If it didn't, I could uncheck that and I'd have to sort of figure out what those should be. But if it does contain headers, then I definitely want to click that. So I'll say OK. And now all these other buttons just lit up. Now these are useful now that they're actually connected to data. So even before we move along, I'm going to go to the third button that just lit up, said Edit Recipient List. This can be super powerful, especially when you're, say, exporting from weird sources like PowerSchool. You might end up with blanks, or you might end up with just different data that you might not need, or it's not sorted the way you want. By clicking the Edit Recipient List button, I get this guy popping up. And what this will let me do is check or uncheck any names that I didn't want to include. So if I came down this list and realized that there was somebody I didn't want in here, like, I don't know, Thor, I could uncheck Thor, and then he just wouldn't be in the list. Now, as I scroll down, you'll see, oh, geez, Excel has a lot of fake, or not a lot of fake, a lot of empty, blank rows here, and I don't want to create like 200 invitations that don't go anywhere, that don't have any names on them. So the first thing I'll do is filter out my blanks. I'm going to come right here to this filter option, click it. I'm going to say, all right, in the, say, student number field, that's an easy one. I want to say not equal to or less than or anything like that, although there is lots of features in here for doing calculations. So if I was filtering out maybe, I don't know, sales data at a company, and I only wanted to send the invites to people who had sold over a certain amount, I could say greater than and put, set a value and say, okay, if your sales number is greater than this number, then you get the invitation. You're going to be on the list. But in this case, all I want to know is I'm going to filter out what's not blank. Or sorry, not filter it out exactly. I want to filter out the blanks. There we go. Say okay. And see there, I get all blanks that way. So you can see what's going to happen. I just get blank, 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 blank. And you can just test things that way. So I'll hit filter and I'll switch it back and go, oops, is not blank. That's what I want to filter for. And if I needed to, I could say and I could grab another value and another value and another value. So you could filter by multiple columns all at once. So this time it's going to work nicely for me. It is not blank. Excellent. So there's my student number is not blank filter. And at this point, I could sort them by last name just by clicking on last name. That's a quick way to sort. I've got all that other information in there, and I don't need to change anything really, so I'm good. If I had duplicates, I could get rid of them, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it alone right now and say, okay. Nothing's changed, of course, because we haven't actually done anything to our document yet. But now what I need to do is look at this and say, okay, where am I going to start replacing things? So let me zoom in again. And right where I said, hey there, name, I'm going to throw in an actual name. So let me just click, delete that part. And here's how I can do that. I can come up to the top here. If there was a address block at the top of a letter, or it was dear sir, madam, whatever, I could go with a greeting line and it would sort of craft that sentence for me. But in this case, I'm going to go to the insert merge field button, and you'll see there's actually kind of a top half and bottom half of this button. And it works two ways. I'll show you them both. Top one, we get this little floating window here. And now I said, hey there, and I left my cursor sitting right there. So when I choose this now, I'll go with full name, and I say insert. It immediately drops in that full name tag right there. Now say I didn't have full name, say I only had first name and last name. What I had to do in that is say first name, insert, last name, insert. And you'll see there's no opportunity for me to click on the screen here while I'm doing this. I have to just insert these fields one after another. So I've done that. I'm going to go ahead and close now. And it means now I have to come back and say, okay, what I actually wanted, let me get rid of that, pretending that didn't exist. I wanted the first name space last name. So this actually read nicely and made sense. So you can do that for sure. You just got to sort of get your tags in there all at once and then start modifying and spacing them and placing them where you want. The other way to do that, I said the button had sort of two halves to it. The other way I will show you is actually the one I kind of prefer using most of the time. So let me just delete, there we go, delete that tag, those two tags. The reason I prefer coming up here and hitting the bottom half of the button is because it drops down the list right here, and when I hit first name, it immediately puts me back into the document, so I can just hit space, and then I hit this again, and I choose last name. and I can continue typing right away. My cursor's right back on screen, the box is out of my way, and I just move on. It's personal preference. They're both going to functionally do the exact same thing. It just depends on how you like to format stuff. Now, I could certainly grab some of this if I want to do that and then make it bold. Let me come up to my home menu and, oh, it's already bold in the template here, so I'll just leave that alone. But if you're modifying anything, essentially, you can do all your formatting right on the tag, and then it'll start doing that to whatever text that gets dropped in there. Let's see, you're invited to the something party. So let me just delete that. And for this in my data, I'm going to go to that mailings tab. I'm going to insert the award, whatever award you were getting. That's going to be the sports team or the club or something that you were involved in. So you come into the sports party. Now we need a date. I did have a date in my data, so I'm just going to remove that right now. And I'll say insert, and I'm going to use their graduation date because that's the only date I have in my data right now. So we'll throw that in there. And then the street address. I guess for a party, I would type that in because my data here, when I look at this, I do have things like address, city, postal, all that stuff, but that's for the individuals that are going to be receiving that. So in that case, I would go ahead and throw this in. We're at, I don't know, 555 Party Lane in, where am I today, Lindsay? Do it that way. And let's see, bring a contribution. So we got to have people bring some stuff, right? I threw in the contribution column into our data there. So when I come down there and hit contribution, it's going to drop right in. We can say RSVP2 and throw in whatever name we want there. I'll just leave that part alone for now. So I've done my merge. That part's easy, it's finished. I've dropped in all my little tags and I can keep going across here and seeing what other things I might want to do. Once I do, I get preview results. And preview results just turned, there it is, the names or the tags. Here, I'll go back again. These tags will swap out and show me what's actually in the data. So I hit it, there. Bruce Barty Bruce Banner is coming to the drama party. And I could have different dates set up for the different parties or different addresses for the different parties if I wanted to do it that way and have all of that data in one spot, if that's what I was looking for, but not a big deal. So what I can do at the top here is start scrolling through the second, the third, the fourth. So Emma Frost is going to the history party. Jean Grey is going to the rugby party. Benjamin's going to the math party. And I can scroll through each of these results, each of these entries until to double check that everything looks the way I want it to. Someone's name isn't running right off the end of the page or wrapping in a weird way, doing something I didn't want. When I'm ready, when I'm finished, then I get to this finish and merge button. I click him and it is three options, but we're not connected to email through Word. So really I'm looking at these two options. Now if I knew everything was perfect and I'm ready to go, I would just hit print and it sends to the printer and I would get all of my different results. Let's see here, if I come up here and I hit the last button, I have 26 results, and if I were to hit print, it would go ahead and fire up the printer and print off 26 new invitations for me. What I do tend to do, for a couple of reasons, is use this Edit Individual Documents button. Because what it does, and I'll show you right now, I'm going to click it, gives me the option to set up a merge and create it now for all 26 records if I want, or say just the current record if I realized that I had maybe added something new to my data and I now needed to print off that 26th invitation because it didn't get printed the first time. Or maybe there was a problem with the printer. I ran out. There was 25 pieces of paper in the machine and then it stopped. So I'm going to come back now the day later, realize, and print off record 26. So that would be an option for current record. Similarly, I could grab, a batch of them. Maybe the last 10 didn't print, so I could go from 16 to 26. I'm going to go all right now to show you what that does and hit OK. And it's going to create for me a brand new Word document. So this is now called Letters 1. And as I scroll, there's no, if I go to mailings, these are all grayed out. It's not connected to data at all. It is just a completely fresh file. In fact, if I were to click and drag this down, you can see there's party invitation in the background. That one's still connected to data. This one, my new letters document, letters 1, it has If I click down the bottom, my face is in the way. Oh, this one. Down in the bottom corner, even my text is still in the way, it says page 1 of 26. That's all I was getting at. Page 1 of 26, meaning that I've got 26 pages here. I can scroll down and I'm going to see a different name. Robert Drake, Emma Frost, there we go. And of course, Jean Grey, all the way down. And now if I need to make any individual changes, that's why it says edit individual documents, I'm going to be able to go ahead and make little tweaks to anything here that I want. So if I looked at it and said, Bruce Banner's coming to the drama party, but I don't know, Bruce actually, for whatever reason, Dad works at the chip company, so he's going to bring us chips instead of plastic cups, even though that was what the merge had us doing. Whatever changes I need to make, basically, you can customize and tweak and adjust them before you actually hit print. And now at this point, I could come up and hit File and go ahead and print this like any other document, because it is like any other document at this point, and just print those all off. So that'd be a quick example with the party stuff going on. What I'm going to do instead now is go ahead and open up another document. And if I go File, let's see, Open, to grab my volunteer form is one of them, or the thank you. Thank you is just a basic note. So this one, I'm going to connect to the same data again. So mailings, mail merge, I don't need to do anything here. Select recipients, use list, and let's see, there's my demographics. Yep, same steps as before, no big deal. I'm going to, again, edit my recipient list and quickly filter that based on full name, as long as it is not blank. There we go. And let's see, so for date, that's where maybe instead I want to use one of these greeting lines, or not the date specifically. Date, I'll go ahead and just drop in our grad date. Volunteer's name is going to be their first name, or their full name, I should say. And then right here, I've got address, city, province, and zip code. So I'm going to delete that and show you what the address block would look like. When I click on the address block, it's pretty good at figuring out which of those columns in my list is the city, state, street, province, all that kind of stuff. And it gives me a little sample right here of what record number 1 is going to look like. And I can scroll across it just like when we were previewing earlier and see what these different addresses are going to look like. So as long as I like it, I can leave it alone and go for it. If I want to change some things, I can adjust the name here. I can go with just a first name or full names, mess around with however I want that to look. I can decide whether or not I'm going to include country or region. Let's see. It says only include the country if it's different than the United States, which of course all of ours are. Maybe I say never include the region, and it just takes Canada off of there. And other than that, I'll leave it alone. If something wasn't showing up here, if it wasn't matching, that's what this match fields button is going to do for me. It's going to pop up and say, all right, well, if I don't have a company name, which column would be company? And now I get to pick from all of my different columns which one is actually my company name, if that was the case. City worked, state, I'm going to go with province. Where is it? Address, city, postal. It's a postal code. Maybe I don't have province on here. That's why it didn't match. Okay, fair enough. It did not match Ontario or province because I don't have one. I can come down a little further. I can look at courtesy titles, nicknames, job titles. There's country, business phone, home phone, all these different tags that it's sort of looking for when it's going to craft greeting lines or address blocks, and it's going to allow you to then specify which of these actual columns in your data matches these different things. So if something's not working and not showing up, you can fix it, is I guess the short version of that. Let me go ahead and say never include the region, and okay. So there's our address block, and now I've got dear name. I'm going to delete that completely for a second, and I'll go ahead and use the greeting line. So very similar, I get to say dear, there's the name, I can go with sir or madam, to whom it may concern, I could put in nothing, I'll just leave sir or madam for now. And the sample is dear Emma Frost, or dear Charles Xavier, or dear Jen Walters, and I can say okay. And now that's in there. So now, on behalf of whatever the PTA name might be, I don't have that one in there. Let's go with our sports teams for now. Whoa. Just so that we can throw something in there for the example. Delete and insert our, where's the award? Award, that's the one. So on behalf of, let's say, I'll call it the, say, math team. I'd like to thank you for volunteering. Da, 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 da. It was held on this particular date. So I'll throw in our grad date. The fair was planned, blah, 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 blah. So it's just a big thank you letter. And I could throw in the name of whoever our president is at that point. And when I go ahead and preview, once again, I've got the date and I've got all that other address block type information in here. So if I'm looking at that and deciding that I didn't really want that in there, or maybe I don't need the name in there, then I can go ahead back. I'll take off my preview and I could just get rid of full name because I've realized that, oh, that's part of the address block. So now when I preview, it's all in there that way. And I've still got the dear part, so it's not, the name is already in there twice no matter what. For the date, you can make tweaks to that. I've got information on our doc already about some of the different field codes you can use. I would have to say edit field codes, and then there's a bunch of ways that you can kind of set up these switches here and format your date the way you would want. So if it's not showing up the way you like, the biggest mistake people make is that they want to go to Excel and change how the date looks in Excel so that it will change how it looks on their Word document, and it's not how it works at all. Excel has its own format options for how the date will look on the spreadsheet, but in the background, Excel only ever understands the date in this sort of raw format. So it's never Tuesday the 2023, like Tuesday the 21st or something like that. That's just a formatting choice that you can then also make here. So without getting into that whole document, I would say edit. It is definitely going to be insert field codes, and then I've got to get in here and start typing the format using like dd/mm/yy kind of stuff to differentiate day, month, year, or year, month, day, or the full year, or the full words, is all done that way. So separate document, I won't get into it right now, but definitely ask me about it if you're curious. And of course I would finish and merge just like the previous document. So don't really need to do that. The last thing I'll leave you with here, I know I had one other document, but it's really the same kind of thing again, this volunteer form option, same idea again. You're just going to be grabbing it in whatever format it is. There we go. So this is one that you'd be printing off to then use. You could drop in full name, last name, address, all that kind of stuff here. Print that off and then use those on a day when you've got volunteers in the school that are doing whatever, and you can ask them what it is that they want to volunteer for, if they're helping with a particular event or something. Customize this document the whole bit. But the process is the same, so I won't go through that with you just yet. What I'll do instead is just show you if I was starting from scratch and they're all coming to this event and I've sent out that party invitation maybe, and now I want to make name tags for everybody. Well, I certainly don't need to start getting out magic markers and writing names on name tags, because we can get big sticker sheets like the Avery sticker sheets and create those name tags from the exact same data we already used to send out our invitations. So I would just go File, let's see, I'm going to start a brand new one. I'll just go blank. Go up to the Mailings tab, and this is where I'm actually going to use this Start Mail Merge button, is when I truly am starting from nothing. Then I could say, yeah, I want to make a letter, or I want to make an envelope, or in this case, I want to use labels. So I'm going to click Labels. It just created a new document for me. That's why it flickered for a second there. And now it's asking me, okay, what of the different vendors? It usually defaults to Microsoft, but I was clicking around in here earlier, so I've switched it to Avery US Letter. And then you can see it's got all these different label sheets in here. And of course, every label sheets are all numbered. When you buy the package, there's a number in the corner there. So I can come down here, and usually 5160 is kind of the most common one that we end up going with. Where is it? 51, almost. 60 address labels. There we go. So height 1 inch, width 2.63 on a typical 8.5 by 11 paper. Now these are address labels. That's a width of 4. I'm gonna go bigger. I'm gonna go width of 4, the 5159. Say okay. There we go. Nice big stickers. So if that's what I had sheets of, then I can come over here and I'm going to go ahead and say, once again, select existing. Should be familiar by now. Grab your data, say yes. Now, next record you can ignore. That's something we haven't seen yet because previously each page, that single page invitation or single page letter that we created, that was one record. Record meaning one line in your spreadsheet. And so at the bottom of that, kind of invisible, I guess, was this next record tag. You just don't see it. You don't need to when you're doing it that way. And so it means each page that it generates, it would then go to the next row in your spreadsheet and generate a brand new page with that new data on it. Well, here, I want to go to the next row in my spreadsheet for every single label. Otherwise, I'm going to be creating an entire page of just one student and have 10 labels for that same kid. Here, I'm going to edit that recipient list again because once again I don't want these blanks in there. So I'm going to filter by name, not blank. Give me the not blanks. There you are, not blank. Okay, done. Okay, now what I'll do is go ahead and just drop in, say first name, enter, last name. And that's an advantage of having the first name, last name in their own fields like that rather than the full name all in one, is I'm actually able to hit enter and put a page break in there. Or not well, yeah, enter a new line between the first name and the last name. So I'll do that now. First name, last name. I'm going to highlight those, and I'm going to use some of my typical sort of formatting tools I would normally have. I'm going to say center that. We are inside a label here, so I can come to my table tools. That's basically what a label is, and I'm going to use center here, so it's centered right in the middle. And then back on my home ribbon, I'm going to bump this up. Bump, 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 bump. Looks like there's a blank line right there. Let me hit delete. There we go. And I could mess around with my fonts if I wanted to change that to Arial Black maybe. Bump it up a little bit more. Go to mailings, and now let's preview what that's going to look like. Okay, Benjamin Graham, that's not bad there. Maybe I want this. Do I want to go any bigger? Rather than scrolling through like this, because you could have hundreds, I'm going to go ahead and use this button here. This wasn't lit up before. This was grayed out, so I couldn't even mention it. But what update labels is going to do is take whatever you did in this first label and then basically copy and paste it down to all the other labels. So if I think I like how this looks, I'm going to go ahead and say update labels. Looks a bit crazy at first, but when I preview, you realize everything's going to be okay. Now, I did my centering, my formatting here on this tab. I didn't do that to the rest of these, so now I'm going to do it to everything. I'm going to go ahead and click and just drag and select all of these guys. There we go. Come up to my layout and I'll choose that centering option again. There we go. So center top and bottom, center left and right. That's what this is doing for me. And now I can see that, yeah, of that first page, everything kind of looks as it should. So I'm not too worried that things are going to start like bleeding off the page or getting too long. And I'm ready. So now again, I can go finish and merge, and I would either just print right to the printer and put my Avery labels on there, or I might say edit individual documents first and grab all of those records and see just how big this is going to be. Two sheets, not a big deal, with a couple blanks at the bottom. Then I could go ahead and print those or do any other sort of formatting and fixing up that I might want to do, or maybe tweak something if I noticed the name was wrong, or color code the first two and of each page, or whatever I might need to do. Lots of different things you can sort of mess around with and change as you go. But that way you've got your labels, you've got your invitations, you got your thank you for coming and volunteering, all from the same data. You're able to create all these different documents, and I didn't have to type anybody's name even once. So that's sort of where that power of that mail merge can be really, really handy. You can create all kinds of different documents for the same group of people, potentially with the same data set, and not have to really create or replicate any of that data over and over again. You just let the machine do the work for you. Lastly, the other reason that I said I like to hit this edit individual documents button and create this other version, it's great for proofing. You can certainly scroll down and make sure everything, looks exactly how you want it to. But the other thing you can do is go ahead and save this file. So you can save that. It's kind of like capturing that moment in time in terms of your data is concerned. I can save this as my event list or my name tag list for April 2023. Save that document all by itself, and then later get him out of the way. If this data in the background, the one that's connected to my recipient list, if any of the data in that list changes, then when I open up this document and I'm looking at that merge, it's going to reflect that new data. So if I've deleted names, say, I'm not going to see them here anymore. They're just gone because the data doesn't have them anymore. If I have if I've retained this original version that I spit out when I did my merge the first time, then I still have these original names. So if I'm asked a year from now, hey, who did we invite last year? And the last year's data file is gone, I might still have the actual name tag file sitting around um, in my records somewhere of, oh, this is who I printed off, this is who we actually invited. So if there's value to you in maintaining sort of records of what you've done, then certainly creating one of these additional files is a good option. So as a general rule, I tend to hit edit individual documents even when I don't plan to actually edit them. It's a nice way to sort of keep all that stuff, and I'm not wasting any paper by doing it. And you can print it as many times as you might need. So there's our look today at mail merge and how all this stuff can sort of work pretty quickly and easily for you. I took a lot of time there to kind of show you how it might look on different documents, but the general process of just connect to some data and then start pumping all of that row by row into whatever template you want is pretty quick and easy, and you can generate, I mean, hundreds of letters in a couple minutes pretty easily. So the bigger your data set, the more valuable the mail merge stuff is going to be to you. So explore that the next time you've got any kind of event going on or anything that you're finding you're needing to generate a significant number, even a class worth of different, labels, addresses, name tags, whatever it might be. Anything in that vein, certificates, it all works really, really well as long as you've got the data. And we probably do. You can export that from lots of different places, or you can even collect it in a Google form and then take that spreadsheet and export it out to Excel and continue on with all your mail merge stuff. So check it out and give it a try. Let me know if you've got any questions moving forward. See you soon.